You've probably heard that Taiwan and China don't get along. You've seen the headlines, the military drills, the angry press conferences. But if you are watching this from Europe or the US, it feels distant. Another region, another culture, not your problem. And that's normal. It's called the law of proximity. The further away something is, the less urgent it feels. But here is the truth. What is happening between China and Taiwan could mess with your life a lot faster than you think. This is not just about old history, it's about global trade, chips, war games, and identity. Ask China, and they will say Taiwan has always been part of their country. But ask Taiwan, and you will get anything from a laugh to a very long rant or a death stare. But let's start with the basics. What even is Taiwan? China is, well, China, massive, authoritarian, a global superpower. Taiwan is just a tiny rebellious island that forgot it was supposed to lose. Most people think Taiwan broke off from China recently. But to understand why this is so complicated, we have to go back and how the Civil War broke everything. By the early 1900s, China was falling apart. Internal revolts, famines, colonial invasions, chaos. Thus, two main forces emerged. The nationalists, or the KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek. They wanted a unified Chinese republic. On the other side, the communists, led by Mao Zedong. They wanted revolution, land reform, Soviet-style everything. They both hated each other. But before they could finish their fight, surprise! Japan invades. So they made a temporary alliance. They kind of work together, a kind of backstab each other. World War II ends, Japan leaves, and instantly the Chinese Civil War resumes. To everyone's surprise, Mao wins. Despite having fewer weapons, he had something better. Peasants. Millions of them. But he also got a major boost from captured Japanese weapons and Soviet aid. In 1949, the communists take Beijing and declare the People's Republic of China. The losers, the nationalists, flee to Taiwan, and they take everything they can carry. Gold, archives, art, an army, and hundreds of thousands of loyalists. They land in Taiwan and create a miniature China. Same flag, same dream, different island. When the nationalists arrived in Taiwan, they didn't build a democracy. They built a dictatorship, martial law, political executions. It was the White Terror. For nearly 40 years, Taiwan was ruled by fear. Dissent was crushed, all in the name of fighting communism. A pivotal moment was the 228 incident in 1947, a massacre of civilians following a protest crackdown. It became a symbol of deep mistrust and resentment toward KMT rule, shaping Taiwanese political identity for decades. At the same time, Taiwan claimed to be the real China. They even held China's seat at the UN, including a permanent Security Council seat, until 1971. But slowly, the world realized something. Taiwan was tiny, China was huge, and still is. And democracy or not, China was the future. So in 1971, Taiwan gets kicked out of the UN, pushed off the global stage, replaced by Beijing, and over the next decades, almost every country switches side. Today, only around a dozen countries still officially recognize Taiwan. The rest pretend it does not exist, while secretly doing business with it. But why is that a problem? Because without recognition, Taiwan can't join the UN, sign treaties, or enter most global forums. So when Taiwan becomes Taiwan, In the late 1980s, something unexpected happened. Taiwan transformed. The military regime fell. Martial law ended. Free speech returned. Elections were held. A real democracy was born. By the 1990s, Taiwan did not just change leaders, it changed identity. It stopped pretending to be China and started becoming itself. Young people started asking questions. Why are we still pretending we are the real China? Why are we using this flag? Why do we even care what Beijing thinks? And slowly, the identity shifted. Most young people in Taiwan today don't see themselves as Chinese, not culturally, not politically, not emotionally. They see Taiwan as its own country, a place that earned its freedom and does not want to give it up. China says, Taiwan is family, but if your cousin moves out, changes their name and blocks your number, maybe. Stop showing up with thanks and definitely stop calling it reunification. To understand China's position, you have to understand how it sees its own history. According to Beijing, Taiwan has always been an inseparable part of China. Not just recently, not since 1949, always. The logic goes like this. In the 1600s, Ming loyalists Koxinga expelled the Dutch from Taiwan. Then, the Qing dynasty took over, adding Taiwan to its territory. Later, China lost Taiwan to Japan in a war, only for it to be returned to the Republic of China after World War II. When the communists took the mainland in 1949, the Republic of China fled to Taiwan. In this version of history, Taiwan was always Chinese, just temporarily separated by civil war. For many Chinese people, it's more than a map, it's emotional. It's like a family member that went missing, who blocked them on Instagram 70 years ago and never looked back. Here is the problem. The way China understands its past is very different from how most of the world understands sovereignty. Yes, the Qing dynasty ruled Taiwan. But the Qing was not modern China. It was an empire ruled by the Manchus, an ethnic group who were not even Han Chinese, the majority today. They also ruled Mongolia, Tibet, and large part of Asia. But that does not mean China gets to claim all of it. Back then, there were no passports, no fixed borders, no "this line on the map means war." Instead, China saw the world as a middle kingdom, with varying degrees of influence. Control was not about ruling every village, it was about showing who is the boss, with culture, tribute, and prestige. To modern states, ruling a place means governing it with laws, institutions, and borders. But to Imperial China, ruling a place means being paid a tribute, being obeyed, being respected. So, if past empires don't equal modern ownership, why does China still treat Taiwan like it is destined to return, no matter what Taiwanese people actually want? Chapter 7. The global game of pretend. But here's where it gets ridiculous. Every country says they love democracy. But when China waves a trade deal, suddenly they forget Taiwan exists. As of 2025, only about 12 countries recognize Taiwan officially. The rest, they bent the knee to Beijing for cash. But unofficially, they still want Taiwan's tech, tourism and bubble tea. Embassies are called representative offices. Presidents visit, but not officially. Semiconductors flow, but under the name Chinese Taipei. So basically, we don't know her, as they process $1 billion shipment of semiconductors. Meanwhile, China sends warships, fighter jets, and boats calling your grandma a Western imperialist spy. And the US plays both sides, selling weapons to Taiwan, but refusing to say if they would help in a war, even though that changed recently. Strategic ambiguity, which basically means maybe we will save you, or I might finish my Netflix show before. If the whole world agrees to a lie, does that make it true or just more fragile? Most people don't know this, but when it comes to Taiwan, there are two realities. De jure, what the law says, de facto, what actually happens in real life. And in geopolitics, this gap is not just academic. It's where ambiguity lives, and where diplomacy kind of gets messy, and where perhaps some war might start. Because Taiwan actually exists in that gap. Let's break it down. According to Beijing, Taiwan is a province of China. Case closed, de jure. But according to Taiwan's old legal framework, mainland China is the lost territory. Also case closed, de jure. And the rest of the world, they nod, smile and say, we respect the One China policy, then massively buys chips from TSMC and send weapons through the back door. But here is the painful truth. De jure, most countries acknowledge Beijing claims over Taiwan. De facto, Taiwan is a fully functioning country. It has its own border, its own diplomacy, its own military, free elections, and internet better than in most countries. You don't need a visa from China to visit. You don't use Chinese money. You can even criticize the government and not disappear. So why the dance? Because if anyone says what is obviously true, Taiwan is a country, China throws a tantrum. We get massive trade threats and military drills happen. But this legal ambiguity is not really an accident, but also a strategy. It lets 1. China pretend reunification is inevitable, 2. Taiwan act like it's already independent, and 3. The rest of the world pretend they are not involved. It's almost global gaslighting, and everyone is on it. So what happens when the pretending stops? So is Taiwan part of China? Well, Taiwan is not part of China. But here is the real question. What happens when China says yes and Taiwan says fuck off? And what if the world has to pick a side? You are not ready for the answer. But that is exactly what I break down in the next video. So click it before someone invades.